this is the same as what we got.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is what I was talking about.
All right, hold on a second. Yeah, I have now. That's something to talk about.
Yeah. Where's Kirkland?
Right. We're doing certification, but
Oh, I get 2 signs.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
But yours is over there.
How do you know it's over there?
I am, that's exciting. I know, it's like,
Or maybe
I've
it's
never
in here.
said my hands are seeing.
Nope.
It's expanding my world horizon here.
Nope. Oh, there it is.
Good, good, all right.
I think it'll be interesting. I mean, the way
Okay, I'll
I'll
put a different, I'll put a different name.
Yeah, it depends. It's like, I'm when it comes to the, when it comes to the commentary. Yeah.
So,
All right. Shall we roll?
let's roll.
All right. All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Madison Public Schools Board of Education Finance Committee to order. It is 6:40. Welcome, everyone. And tonight, our goal is to review and make a motion to approve the budget calendar. Secondly, to discuss and cover this year's the 22-23 budget assumptions. Then we'll have a time for a public comment after that. So we have our expert, Stacy Notes here, who will supply everything I lack. But before we start, I'd just like to say that over the last several years, the district has run a very lean operating budget, in part so that we could save money to finance future capital improvements. And to that point, last year's increase was, I think, 1.27%. The year before was 0.87%. 1920 was down 10 basis points. 2018-2019 was 2.08%. So the 5-year average has been an annual increase of 1.7%, which is very lean. And with that, I'd like to move to our first agenda item, which is the budget calendar. It's been distributed to everybody here and will be forwarded to the board. I'll just start off with a few names and dates, and then we'll take it away. So obviously, we're meeting here tonight to approve the calendar. There will be over the next week to 2 weeks, the administration will solidify some of their numbers. We will have a second budget finance committee meeting on the 14th of December. And by the 30th, we hope to distribute the proposed administration's budget to the full Board of Education. We'll have a budget workshop on January 4th and try to take action by the Board of Education on the administration's budget no later than January 18th. The budget referendum for the town is May 16th, 2022. So that's the main contour of the schedule. So with that, Stacy, if I'd like to turn it over to you.
Okay, so I think you've pretty much summarized everything on the schedule. The only things that I want to highlight is, of course, we were starting back in October 26th, and we had to cancel that because of weather. And then we also postponed a meeting on November 9th. So tonight, as you said, Galen, we're looking to approve the calendar and then discuss the assumptions and then distribute both to the Board of Ed later on. The highlighted, and I didn't print in color, I'm sorry. Those are changes from the prior calendar that you've all seen in the past. There was drafts passed out, but the November 30th was simply moving the agenda items down. December 14th with the Finance Committee, I did highlight that just because that will be an additional meeting outside of your regular schedule. And then the January 11th meeting for the Board of Ed, that would be an additional meeting. I just kind of wanted to highlight that. And then a little disclosure that the town dates, I did throw those in today, however, they have not been approved by both boards yet. So they're subject to change, hence the TBD at the top of the gray section.
Thank you. So are there any questions or comments concerning the proposed budget schedule, budget calendar? All right. Hearing none, may I please get a motion to forward this to the full board?
So moved. Second.
Second. Okay. Discussion, no, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nobody opposed, motion passes. Thank you. The second agenda item covers our operating budget guidelines and assumptions. We have a sheet for that. And some of this is standard year over year. Some of it is a little bit different for this year, given the stimulus money. And I, at this point, would like to toss it to either Stacy or Dr. Cook.
Sure, I'll take a couple highlights. As Galen shared, it is oftentimes very similar to what the board has seen in the past. A couple pieces of the guidelines as we look at start the work of looking at the district being a K-5 and pre-K-5 district in terms of elementary setup, and so there's some curriculum and instructional work we have to look into being prepared for that. You know, every year Stacy works very closely with the principals and realigns allocations per building based on enrollment, and so we want to make sure that we have the money at the buildings available that they need for and students. And then, as you see as well, COVID has had an impact on us in many ways, part of which is certainly financial. And so how do we continue to respond to that, both I think in terms of a class size issue and then social emotional learning. We understand that also that you know, still in tough academic times for many people, and want to be thoughtful of a upcoming referendum as well. And so we look to have a relatively lean budget ask coming from the administration this year, but we also want to make sure we're putting out our needs. So you'll see in there that we're planning to propose a math coach for grades 7 through 9, which would then give us the continuum of math coaches throughout our district. I think as we look at our district, there will be much lengthier presentations on this when we get to that point. I just wanted to highlight some of the things in there that I think are exciting and hold a lot of potential. AP support for our students, advanced placement courses. So many beauties of the trimester schedule allow our students to take so many courses, and our students take so many AP courses. But what I think we're lacking somewhat is that support for our students to take AP courses and the exam at the end. So a student taking an AP course in trimester 1 and 2 will not have access to the teacher, and then also oftentimes the curriculum, after March until they take the test in May. And I think that that's a disservice to the students. So this would provide them an opportunity to work with their teacher on Saturdays or after school, kind of like in a small group tutoring sessions. It could be the whole course, but it would be voluntary on the part of the student to prepare for that test and keep them fresh in the material. Also, because they're in a trimester, we do lose out on a little bit of instructional time versus, say, a whole year course for that. So it could make up portions of that. Our teachers that even start to look at this and say, okay, now I'm going to be able to cover this sections that are not typically, we don't typically get to at the end of that. So, for a small amount of money, in my eyes, it could really support our advanced placement program at the high school. Also, I think we're at the position where, most students at Daniel Hand High School are AP worthy. They are able to take a college level course, and we would like to push students with support to be able to take an AP course that maybe wouldn't normally have done so. And we offer, so many, around 20, depending on the year, AP courses, so it would be, tremendous if we can increase our percentage of students taking those courses. We all have been seeing, and this is something we'll present in detail as well, an increase in English language learners throughout our district, particularly at the elementary level. But we will need to continue to respond and support our students that are English as a second language. We need to, and this ties into our previous presentation, the committee received a curriculum on NEASC and the accreditation process. We need to make sure we have defined and viable curriculum in all subject areas, and so we want to continue that cycle and keep that going. Those are areas that you see there in wellness, PE, health, and counseling that we need to, and then we're in need of developing a K-12 music and theater program, which I think is also very important as we look at our referendum and the redesign of the elementary grades, especially. Technology, so the district has committed just a tremendous amount of money into technology and really the last year and a half, especially due to COVID, but also playing a little catch up. And we want to make sure that we are in a position where we have a replacement plan for all that. And we also want to make sure that we have Promethean boards in all of our classrooms and are pretty close to achieving that goal as we move forward into next year. And then finally, due to needs in our buildings as well as increased cost, and I think that the board and the public are very aware of the increased cost of maintenance items, whether it be tools and fixtures, or the cost of having somebody come in to do painting in our buildings or floor tiling, but also the need to maintain our buildings. And so the money that we have not increased over the years is certainly not going as far as it had in the past. And so $50,000 increasing that by $50,000 would be something the administration would be proposing. And we'd hope to then be able to catch up a little bit and keep up with the cost increases in those areas. Stacy, anything I missed that you wanted to highlight?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
So when you were talking about support for the advanced placement student program, it's my understanding that the AP courses are 3 trimesters long. Is that correct? Or
Not all, or some are just the 2.
not all of them are? Okay. And so some of those courses are split then, where it would be like the 1st and 3rd trimester and not.
Most
Or
of
are they
them are
always-
not 1 and 3, but some of them are. That is a possibility. But many of them are T1, T2, or T2, T3. So they're not all configured the same way. We just don't have the staffing to do it the same way. They're not all year long.
So how many, I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, how many of the AP courses that we do offer are actually not 3 trimesters? Because when I was looking at it previously, most of the honors classes and AP courses were 3 trimesters long. So I was really unaware that there were some that were 2.
Yeah, there are some that are 2. I can get that to you. I have that information.
Because just if we're looking for supporting, extra money for this support, I want to know how many courses we're actually talking about, because most of them are 3 trimesters, and therefore they have access to their teacher all year.
And I would say too, we could certainly provide you with that. Even outside of that, there would still be that need, I feel, to support our students. Students in Connecticut already are start off a little bit behind for AP courses because many of it's a national test. So as schools in the South start in August and the test is in May, sometimes early May. So we still have another solid month of the school year that they our students do not have access to that. But even the ability to go through some additional support for those students, even if they are in a 3 trimester course, it would be helpful. And I think 1, encourage students to take the test, 2, encourage students to be in the course that might not normally be, and then 3, increase our results in AP on the exams. And so as Schools look at that now. Sometimes they are no longer accepting 3 as a passing. They want a 4 or 5 in order to be accepted into colleges, or just to make sure that our students that maybe we're lined up or gearing up to get a 2, maybe we move them to a 3, and then they're able to bring that on to
So,
college.
One of the other questions I had was, and I don't know this is what I have heard, that a lot of the students that choose to take the AP courses do so because they're weighted and it helps their GPA, and their overall plan is actually to not sit for the exam, and they still get the benefits of a weighted course. So if that is indeed the case, then I don't know that this support is going to help them to feel like they want to take the test, because I don't think that's their goal. I don't know what percentage of students we're talking about.
I think it's technically called senioritis.
It is a thing.
So I don't know if, when we're looking at the students who are not sitting for the AP exams, if their reasoning is because they don't feel ready, so they're not gonna, try for that, but they still get the benefit of the weighted course. I guess I don't know how you get that data, but it's just something.
I agree. I think there are students that certainly fall into all the different categories. I've talked to teachers in the past where they've said, the student paid and sat for the exam and then maybe didn't give their best effort based on, what Gail had shared. They've already got into their college and maybe the course isn't going to count towards it. But, I think that it's important, to give them that support and give them that option and then encourage them to take the test.
So is this also coming from feedback perhaps from teachers or from the administration saying like that the students are looking for more support in their AP courses, or?
Yeah, we've talked about that. We've looked at other districts that are AP schools of distinction, like say in West Hartford, what they do and how they encourage students to take the test. So we look at that, and again, we have a high percentage of AP courses taken, but it's by a smaller percentage of students than I would like to see. I would rather see more students taking AP courses than say 1 student taking 5. But not, I don't think the goal is to shut them off from that either. If a student wants to take 5 AP courses, the family's on board. Guidance does a lot of work with those families to let them know, as Principal Sarah Terry shared in the previous presentation, they talked to them about the time that's going to entail, an hour of homework a night, pretty much, and you're talking 5 courses, that's a pretty lengthy period of time.
So when you are saying that we're supporting the inclusion of, is there like a monetary value that goes with this, or are we not there yet?
We're not quite there yet. I would estimate around 30,000. And there's, I think there's potential to run it at different levels too. Could be a situation where originally not as many students sign up or not as many teachers are interested in it, but I do know some teachers are already interested. But it'd be great to start, in my opinion, just to certainly kick it off.
I don't want to monopolize, but I do have another question. But Emily, you can go ahead.
I just really quick about the curriculum cycle. Are those cycles that were pushed back for COVID reasons?
Absolutely.
Could you just talk a little bit about each of those?
Yeah, so those cycles were impacted by COVID. We definitely would have been further along in those cycles by now if we didn't have to push pause. So I do have a graphic that will go into the budget book, just kind of projecting where we are in those cycles. One of them is fairly innovative, which is the wellness cycle. So typically you would see curriculum written for physical education as a standalone. You would see curriculum written for health as a standalone, and maybe you might see some guidance lessons or counseling lessons. And what we are trying to do is to take the new standards and take a look at kind of a wellness approach that would impact kids over time on a more continual basis for physical well-being, mental well-being, and healthy habits overall. So really looking at it as integrated so kids can transfer as they grow and experience those lessons over time, instead of saying, right now I'm only focusing on physical fitness. Now, the next trimester, I'm going to focus on healthy eating and healthy habits. So that is a unique cycle. That one would be a 2-year process because of all the content areas involved. And then the other one, I'm really optimistically thinking will be a 1-year cycle. And that is the music and theater, which definitely would have been completed this year if not for COVID. But that one has not been started yet. So that's going to be a hard launch and a hard push for completion next year. But I'm optimistic. That would complete all of the curricular areas in time for our first NEAS visit. So that would complete, the launch that we would need in order to meet all the criteria for NEAS.
Were there other curriculum rewrites that were paused?
Yeah, absolutely. Art, we started and we didn't make it all the way through. I am trying to work this year to work around things. The trick with curriculum writing, as you know, is I'm pulling people, it's got to be a combination of people who are working on curriculum during the summer and on vacations, as well as during the school year. And that creates a balance financially, so we can afford to get through the curriculum writing in a reasonable way. So right now, really hard to find subs, really difficult to think about impacting classrooms during this year where we're trying to level things out, but still making some progress in that. There's quite a bit of legislation also that is pending further work and further direction that we've yet to receive. So that's a big question mark unknown.
Is that specific for which? Is it specific for music?
Boy, it's
or
all
art?
over, Diane. It's, social studies, the inclusion specifically of woodland Indian education in K-8. There's a component for the literacy center and the impact on K-3. Guidance is not even close to being established for that. But definitely in the school year 2022-23, we would be having a lot more guidance on that. So a lot of unknowns in addition.
So the curriculum for the music and theater, so I know that we often don't have subs in the high school for music, and that there's often no teacher in the room at all during the orchestra session. So knowing that and knowing that the orchestra teacher is like going between 2 schools, and when there's half days, she can't be in 2 places at one time. I'm just wondering how she and how most of the music department is going to be able to write curriculum during the year when they're already stretched so thin.
It's difficult in any discipline this year because they're all stretched thin and they're all impacted by the subs and the lack of sub availability. So it is difficult. The other thing you have to think about and count on is that there are certain teachers who are one-on-ones teaching a discipline. So if they're not inclined to work during the summer, or if they're not inclined to work during vacations, that's something you can't force them to do. So also professional development days are really helpful to curriculum writing. We've actually cut back on those. So that also impacts kind of both ends of it. As well as the NEAS accreditation takes up a lot of time at the high school level. So that's not even available. So it's problematic, but we have really good momentum. We've gotten through the design process. We have a lot of exemplars. We have a lot of people who are interested and excited to do it. So I find that when there's a will, there's a way. So
you think it'll get done in a year?
I'm optimistic. I think we have some people who are really excited and interested in doing it. They've been waiting their turn and they've been patient about it, but there's a definite willingness and interest in making sure that we have adopted curriculum in those areas.
Glad to see folks are here, by the way. This is the finance committee meeting before the board of ed. So glad that you're exercising your Bill of Rights. But we do have the first 2 rows of chairs reserved for Ryerson staff. So if I could ask you please to move back so that everybody can have a chance to, to participate for the time comes.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thanks. Okay. So you need to step back behind the.
I wasn't taking up the chair, but if you'd like me to move back, I'll stand right here.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Yep, okay.
So my question about the math coach is that you have it listed for grades 7 to 9. And I'm just wondering how, usually, are they usually sort of building based?
They're not building based because it's usually more effective for me to schedule them across buildings.
Oh, okay.
So they're not having any downtime. They're very highly utilized. And even though it's scheduled for 7 through 9, if you look at the elementary coach in particular, she's working with like 30 some odd teachers. So she's way overloaded. I would redistribute the coaching staff according to how many teachers they're working with and where the newer programming is. So I think the board's aware that new programming has started in the Pulson schools, and we've been doing a lot of professional development on that. That would be continuing work. And actually at curriculum in January, we're slated to give an update on that work.
I have a question. Am I allowed to ask a question?
Well, sure, but you're more than welcome. We have a time reserved for public comment for this committee meeting on finance, and so it's coming up really shortly. And when that happens, feel free to ask a question pertaining to finance. Probably.
Do we have a number for the math coach yet, approximate or no? Which is over the last
64.
I just had started lesson.
No, it's all yours.
All right, so the Promethean board project, how far have we gotten?
So, great question. So we were able to, through the grant, get Promethean boards for Polson and Brown for the core academic classrooms. And then what has happened is we had money to put towards a lease for this year. And we have actually, due to some savings at the end of the year, and then also the slightly lower cost in Promethean boards, believe it or not, at that time, we have ordered another 77 that are set to ship out. I don't know if we've got that confirmation yet, but they actually were supposed to ship out in May. And now we're here waiting due to supply chain issues still. But that was really scheduled for our elementary schools and then the high school core academic classrooms as well. So we may
So
get
it's just
pretty
the
far.
courses and none of the related yet.
Right, and so what we're getting pretty far with that funding, so we're looking like we do not need to do the lease program, but then when we get to next year, we can purchase the remaining boards and hopefully get those quickly and be able to complete the entire district where we can get the other classrooms as well.
So the 77 that are ordered would finish the elementary schools as they are now?
Core classrooms
Core
in the
classrooms,
elementary
yeah.
now and most of Daniel Hand for the core classrooms.
So then how many more would we need to finish up the related arts?
I believe it'd be another 50 after that Art Sickle has kind of lined up to be able to do.
And those would be transferable to the new building.
Yeah, absolutely. Places that we're looking at putting them some on carts, but also we could take them off the wall and move them to other areas.
And then regarding the last item of the plan of cycle maintenance, so you're proposing a $50,000 annual increase for plan of cycle maintenance.
Just specifically though, for what?
Oh, Bill McMinn is creating a list for me in terms
Okay.
of what he would tackle with that additional money. Some of that is really being used to just continue what we're doing on a normal basis, just with higher costs, but some of it would be new things as well. Like get farther down on his list. He always has a list that is ready to go.
I guess, I'm hesitant about that aspect of it because you're adding something to the annual budget when we're looking at the new buildings, if they pass the referendum. So if we're looking at things that we need to fix and maintain in our current buildings, how does that translate to the new buildings? When we have the referendum, if that gets approved for the new facilities, I don't see how that meshes.
I think when you see the list, you'll see it could be helpful, like, still a lot of work to do on this current building and some other pieces that we'll get to.
That's a quick question. For a few years, we had in the budget guidelines a line for security upgrades. I don't see that in here. I assume, there was a plan that we had, and it would not necessarily be expended on schools that may be closed, obviously. But is there?
I think there's a line item in the CIP.
Okay.
A scheduled steady allocation for
Okay.
security. Yeah.
Thank you.
I believe it's 75,000.
75,000 a year.
70,000. Okay.
And the board added last year to its budget $75,000, double those efforts.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
so we,
And I think a lot of
Always
those
take
things
that
are
seriously.
transferable. They were like, cameras or whatever, something that can go with the new buildings. That's
Yeah.
not gonna be lost.
okay. That concludes our discussion of both the budget calendar and the budget assumptions and guidelines. So now we're at the stage where we're open to comments from the public. Since this is a finance committee meeting, all the questions are germane to finance. The procedure is usually to state your name and address, and then you have up to 3 minutes for whatever you'd like to say, and then we'll keep on.
Thank you. My name is Mo Heinz Dawson. I live in another Conestoga Drive in Madison, Connecticut. It was my first finance committee meeting, quite frankly, and I appreciate what you folks do. I appreciate the budget in Madison is fairly substantive and significant, and I appreciate that it's probably quite difficult in order to allocate resources, allocate finances, and make decisions as to where that money needs to be spent. I know that there are many additions and improvements that are being made to the buildings, made to the schools, made to the structures, which are all a benefit for our students. However, as I said, I'm not really familiar with how the finances work in the town. And so maybe someone can educate me with respect to the finances for schools. How much money is allocated in educating our boys to treat girls with respect? Namely, sensitivity training, something along the lines of not telling the girls in our school that they don't matter. How much money is allocated for preparing our young boys to treat women with respect? How much money is allocated to making sure that our young boys do not tell the girls in our schools to suck their dick? How much money is allocated to ensure that boys are not telling girls in our school that they're going to shoot them if they don't comply with commands? I want to know how much money is being used to actually educate our students. What I've heard in this meeting thus far is a $50,000 increase in allocation for certain things. Pay taxes in this town and have for quite some time. Dr. Cook, I've been here longer than you, and I don't understand. I don't understand how the finances work. Where is the money going? Is there any money going to educating our young boys? That's what I would like to know. If any one of you can answer that question for me, I would greatly appreciate it.
I'll take a first try at it. You're welcome to, you're welcome to have offline discussions, so we can go into more details about this. We allocate a significant amount of money to social, emotional, and health, wellness, and try to uphold values for all our students. I don't know that I can give you a dollar per student amount on how much is devoted to sensitive training for young males. But you could probably back out a reasonable estimate. I just don't, I don't have it here.
Mr. Hawley, with all due respect, I understand, I appreciate your answer, but it's generally speaking non-responsive. Insofar as, sir, you're out of touch. There is not a single class that is offered at any of these schools for sensitivity training. So with all due respect, what are you talking about? Give me an estimate. Is it zero? Because there's not a single class. Are you aware that there is not a class that is available to any of these boys to educate them as to how to treat women?
Well, I'll have to get back to this.
I have all the time in the world, sir.
Well, we don't. Right, and thank you.
I do have one question. Do you know how much money is being allocated to the self-defense class that is being offered at the high school that's targeted directly to girls only from the guidance office? And why that money is being allocated in that way as opposed to training the boys?
We can do our best to get information. Your name and address.
My name is Randy Calabrese.
Okay.
I live at 11 Conestoga Drive here in Madison.
Thank you.
Do you know when you could provide that answer, sir?
I will do my best. I don't want to touch the date till like.
Do you know how you will provide that answer, meaning in writing or a phone call perhaps?
I will consult with the administration.
Okay, my number is 203-909-2354, and I believe Dr. Cook has my email.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And so I should also say that I've probably strayed from the purpose of this meeting, and that is your comments and questions are welcome. But it's really not supposed to be a forum where there's a lot of give and take in terms of answers. We'll do our best to get you those answers later. So I just want to make that clear so we stay within protocol.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're just waiting for the next meeting.
Right, thank you. All right, well, yeah, good question. Is there anybody online with a question concerning the finance committee? We'll check online and get right back to you. Thanks.
They're waiting for public comment online, and then they're gonna come back to you.
Wendy, is there anyone online?
There is no one online.
All right,
Thank you.
great. So yours.
Sorry, I misunderstood what was going on there. My name is Catherine Ferrante. I live at 71 Cops Road. Since this is the finance section, I just wanted to, and I don't fully know this myself, just saw a headline, but I wanted to make sure that this board was aware of the recent win by families of the victims of the Parkland shooting in Florida. They won a big award against the school district because they didn't, 127.5 million. Apparently they ignored signs that Nicholas Cruz, was a threat and could have done exactly what he did. So just wanted this board to know that that possibility is out there and worked out for them in Florida. Thank you.
I have one more comment. I was just wondering, I did see on the agenda, and I'm not sure which one it was, that there was something about maybe alternative educational opportunities. And on that topic, wanted to know how much it cost the district per student to provide an alternative educational opportunity for the year, particularly for our daughter Layla Harajsai, since she was denied that by Dr. Cook last week. She's here, by the way. No, do you have an answer to
No,
that?
it's not a forum. I can't give you the answer right.
Oh, I have an answer. It's $60,000 per student, but if there's a spot on the Board of Finance or the finance meeting, I can certainly take it. My understanding is $60,000 per student. So that $60,000 is provided for a number of students. I believe that the rate has gone up from about 20% to about 24%. So you do in fact provide it to multiple students to be educated elsewhere, which is not our daughter. So if you can confirm for me, I'd really appreciate it if it's $60,000, and maybe that's why you guys don't want to do that, because you want to save that money for possibly $50,000 increase for improvements to a building.
All right, thank you for your comment. All right. No, I think that concludes our action items. And I'd like to call this committee meeting to end at 7:20. Thank you.